Hey everybody, David Alter here. Welcome into Rink Wide Toronto, presented by Bodog. Make a play at Canada's choice for free casino games, sports odds, and poker strategies. And tonight, the Toronto Maple Leafs play their final game at home in the regular season. After this, they've got a 3-game road trip to wrap everything up. They host the Canadiens tonight, and a bit of a fan appreciation night for Wayne Simmonds. We'll get into him in just a little bit, but the big story right now is what is up with Toronto's goaltending situation. So let's recap this. Everything else seemed normal. We knew Matt Murray was injured. And then late last night, the Toronto Maple Leafs called up Wayne Simmonds and sent Joseph Woll down to the Marlies. And so Matt Murray, who is still on the active roster, even though we knew that he had an injury, couldn't be put on LTI because of how late in the season the injury occurred. So they didn't get any cap relief from Matt Murray's injury. All of that is important to know because tonight, this morning, Sheldon Keefe said that the Toronto Maple Leafs goaltender Matt Murray was feeling better and that he could possibly back up, but then that didn't seem to be the case. So they weren't exactly sure of what the Maple Leafs could be doing with their backup goaltending situation tonight. Ilya Samsonov is going to start. He was the only NHL-level goaltender at the morning skate today, which was mandatory. And so here's probably what's going on. According to capfriendly.com, the Maple Leafs only have about $30,000 in salary cap space. And so if they want to sign Matthew Knies, whose collegiate season is going to end later today, they don't have the space for him right now. And so because they didn't get any sort of long-term injured reserve relief from Matt Murray, and they said that he could possibly back up tonight, they could be in a situation where they will be on an emergency and dress short, perhaps another U of T backup goalie, as the backup to Ilya Samsonov. By doing that for one game and dressing short, the Maple Leafs are granted an exception of being able to add a player at $850,000 or less. That could be used to sign Knies while also being able to call up Woll and go temporarily over the cap for the remainder of the season. That could be what's happening. We won't know until later. Of course, if Matt Murray is somehow by a miracle able to back up tonight, then it's all moot. And then they could just send Simmonds down and sign Knies, and there is that. There's also the possibility that Knies isn't signed this year. No one's really talking about that as a possibility. I don't think that's the case, but you have to kind of throw that out there. So a lot of the goaltending dance is happening around today. A lot of it is centered around what's going on with Matthew Knies and how do they have space to sign. So it's going to be really interesting to see who trots out as Ilya Samsonov's backup tonight. If it's an e-bug, they can claim short at the position, and then they're able to use that exception to call up another player and then add Knies on the roster that way and be over the salary cap in that structure. So keep an eye on that. Everything was very measured at the morning skate of Vail. It looked like, you don't know what's going on. There's always a plan. Brendan Pridham is the assistant GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He helped write the CBA. And so if you kind of dig into the weeds and the rules there, that's probably what's going to happen tonight. But we won't know that, of course, until closer to game time. So what we do know for sure, Calle Jarnkrok will not play tonight. He wasn't at the skate. Sheldon Keefe said that he has a minor injury and is day-to-day. So the Leafs shuffled up the lines a little bit here. They put Bunting back with Matthews and Marner. It looks like that overloaded second line experiment is over. They moved Ryan O'Reilly up to the second line center spot to move Tavares back to the wing. That was an experiment they tried when the Maple Leafs first acquired Ryan O'Reilly back in February. And then, they kind of moved it out. It's kind of looking like, the plan for the playoffs might be Ryan O'Reilly as a second line center for the home games and Ryan O'Reilly as the third line center for the visiting games because they don't have that second change to do the matchups. Let me know what you think. Do you think Ryan O'Reilly is best suited to be in a split home road alignment with the Toronto Maple Leafs in their series against the Tampa Bay Lightning? Because that's kind of what it's looking like. So let's take a look at that, and I want to get your thoughts on that as well in the comments section below. Wayne Simmons, I mentioned, he was called up when they sent Joseph Wall down yesterday. He says he's going to have a lot of friends and family here. This could be his very last home game here. Scarborough native. It's been a rough year for him. He's kind of been mostly out of the lineup, sent down, but then called up. Never really reported to the Marlies, even though he'd been technically there in the final year of his 2-year contract that pays him $900,000 per year. And so there's very well a possibility this could be his last game in this build. So should be an emotional night in that regard. Will be interesting to see that. And then in terms of resting, Maple Leafs, we do know that they will play the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. And so it's that difficult balance of how do you rest guys versus getting everybody sharp. Morgan Rielly and TJ Brodie will both be scratched. And this is, again, because they've got guys like Eric Gustafsson, they have Luke Shen, and a whole bunch of other NHL-level roster players that they want to get into some games. It's actually part of the problem why they can't do anything with their goaltending situation right now, because they have 9 guys on defense, and everyone outside of Simmons requires waivers to be sent down. So that's part of the trickiness in terms of trying to fit Matthew Knies into it. The other thing that's important to note with Matthew Knies, and I know I'm jumping a little bit back and forth here, but Knies, if he signs for this year, can't go to the Marlies. It's not a simple fix. The way the structure of the deal is, if he signs for this season, he can only be with the Maple Leafs, and that's it. Following years, he can be stashed away with the Marlies if that's the proper developmental path, but there's a lot of roster limitations that's leading to a lot of the crazy stuff that's going on right now. So that's the story tonight. Myself and Paul Hendrick will have your post-game show. Make sure you rate and subscribe on all of your favorite podcast platforms to Rink Wide Toronto, presented by Bodog, the place to play free casino games and get the latest sports odds. Rink Wide Toronto, pre-game, post-game, every day.